All right, now we're back for another episode of the Lakers Fast Break podcast. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from Pop Culture Cosmos, the Lakers Fast Break, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and Game Source. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our great shows. And I'll tell you what, if you can, please give us that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It is truly appreciated. And I'll tell you what, we cannot thank you enough for supporting us right here at the Lakers Fast Break. I like this, Tom. I tell you what, I like this. I like the sound of this. Lakers win. Lakers win. Flows off the tongue so well. No AD. No LeBron. No Kuzma. No problem. Also no defense, but no problem. But I'll tell you what, it was just a great time to see all the backups and all the people that need to get a chance to play, get a chance to play. Great performances from Alex Caruso and, dare I say it, J.R. Smith. Hold on. So here with me today is my good friend. I know him as Tom Wong, and you're going to hear him in a few minutes, but you got to check out what he's doing today. In fact, we're streaming live on there right now. It's LakerHolics.com. You just saw just right now a big 3D image right there of Tom leaning into the camera right there. He almost came out and popped right on you. But you got to go ahead and check us out at LakerHolics.com. It's a great site, original videos, articles, blogs, and so much more, plus the Lakers Fast Break episodes always there. It is Laker Tom. Got to be a very satisfying way to close out the scrimmage season.
Yeah, it sure was, Gerald. It was like everybody you wanted to see play well, played well. We had 5 new starters. Every one of them was in double digits. It was an exciting game. Like you said, not much defense, but it was great to see JR go off 6 of 7 from deep. Waiters looked terrific, was moving the ball around, 6 assists, and then Alex Caruso, who at one point in time had led the Lakers in 3-point shooting, really was smoking, and he was dropping threes left and right, dishing off dimes. It was a great feeling because you didn't have AD and you don't have LeBron, and you just wonder about it. Of course, we're playing an undermanned Wizards team that didn't have a couple of their stars too. So, for a game that was the last scrimmage and now at least real season basketball starts on Thursday against the Clippers, it was great to see this as a takeoff. LeBron and AD were having a good time on the bench. Everybody seemed happy. The team chemistry seemed great. The bench was rooting for the guys that were on the floor. And we saw a lot of minutes of a lot of people. You saw Costas play. Devontae got in there, got a double-double almost.
Yes.
And so, it was a great representative game. A lot of former Lakers on the other side for the Wizards, who I keep hoping at some point in time might want to get some more Laker young players and give us Bradley Beal. But it was a nice way to end 3 scrimmages. I was also really excited by the virtual fans in the audience, the way that they've got that thing set up with Microsoft Teams. They've got 300 fans that are going to ring 3 sides of the arena. I guess the 3 sides where the cameras are obviously pointing. And those fans can be heard and seen. They all have the same background, which is as if they're sitting in a lounge seat. And the players on the court can hear them. They can scream and yell after great plays and give their feedback. So it really looks like the NBA, especially when you look at what's happening with football and baseball and their problems in the pandemic. Basketball seems to be really taking the lead in this whole thing, and the NBA, I'm very interested to see how the Thursday broadcast goes. I think it's a Clippers home game, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you are correct, but yeah, it's
so. I guess we'll they have Laker fans in there, because that's what happens every time the Clippers play in Staples anyway.
There'll be Lakers fans. They're called the bench for the Lakers, so they'll be cheering their players on. Again, it's going to come down to what we're going to be seeing here. I don't think it's going to be actual playoff intensity. It'll be nice. It'll be very energetic because it's the first game back in this restarted season. But again, with the Clippers not all 100% there due to various reasons, which I don't want to go into. If they want to go ahead and check out our previous podcast that we're going to be having up here in a little bit this week, that we did with Rafael Barlow from NBA Draft Junkies, also as well you and Jamie Sweet from Lakerholics. They'll go ahead and hear more about the discussions on the LA Clippers. But it was a great way to go ahead and end the scrimmage season. I'm so thankful that they got the chance to do so. And I'll tell you what, having the chance to sit down LeBron James and Anthony Davis and Kyle Kuzma and still pull out the victory 123-116 over the Washington Wizards. I don't care if it was the Washington Wizards. It was still an NBA team. Mind you, didn't have all their players there, but still they had enough players to go ahead and battle in there. And I still like what the Lakers gave me. Let's start off with J.R. Smith. How encouraged were you by what you saw from J.R. Smith?
Well, it's shooting. It's outside shooting. Clutch outside shooter and a guy who's got championship experience. You had to be pleased to see him just start shooting the way that you hope he shoots. And it was a perfect example of exactly what JR can bring to you in any game. Because if he gets hot like that from outside, he can be a real difference maker. He can win you one game out of every 7-game series that you play. And that's a hell of a resume for a guy who is picked off of the junk heap, hasn't played in over 600 days in an NBA game. It was great to see that he and Dion have both just slid right in and fit as integral parts of the Lakers team. Both have stayed within they're playing within their abilities and they're playing within the scheme that the Lakers have, which is basically a pretty simple theme for people to fit into because it's surrounding LeBron and AD. And I thought in the game today, it would have been easy for JR to gone crazy and just firing shots up willy-nilly. But he basically took some pretty good shots and he made some good plays and he hustled. So I'm really pleased. It was more than I expected. And it was great to see that once you got that stroke, it's a little hard to lose it. And he was able to reach back and get hot.
Absolutely. And that's something that is very encouraging to Lakers fans because we didn't really know what to expect. And don't tell me you expected it because
no,
I haven't played in almost 2 years, 34 years old. You don't know what you're going to get. But, if there's a chance him getting warmed up, him getting acclimated by the end of the season and going into the playoffs, he may be able to give you 5-10 minutes there, maybe playing off LeBron and give you a couple 3-pointers or give you some quality minutes. And that's all you're asking for. You're not asking for the old J.R. Smith to give you 35 minutes in an NBA game one that he actually did the bonehead maneuver on, but an NBA game finals type scenario. You're just asking him to give a contribution. And there's a possibility now that both him and Dion Waiters, after being out both of them for so long in the NBA, do have a chance to go ahead and make a solid contribution at that.
Well, they have to be two of the biggest bargains on the league at this point in time. And I give Rob Pelinka a lot of credit, and I give those guys a lot of credit for coming in and fitting in with the team. They fit into the roles that they were brought in for. They both understand those roles, and frankly, they've both done a great job in these 3 scrimmages, the little times that we've seen them, especially in this afternoon's game. So
absolutely.
You got to be happy. You got to be happy if you're a Laker fan that these are the guys that we added. They seem to fit in and they're doing their job.
They seem to, indeed. Devontae Kaycock, of the guys at the very end of the bench, seems to be the one that can maybe give you some minutes. Antetokounmpo, Taylor Horton Tucker. I'm sorry, they're just not there. I don't think that they're like emergency break glass guys. Yeah. But it's just a shame that the more I see THT, the more I wanted Bol Bol on my team.
Yeah, I was rooting for Bol Bol too. I was disappointed when we passed him, but kind of like Raphael said, it was a clutch move.
Yes.
And I think that had a big influence in the whole situation. And I
It
can't
should,
complain
but it
about
does.
that. I mean, we have two superstars because of that clutch relationship.
Yes.
So,
True. True. Very true.
And KCP is well more than earned his salary as far as I'm concerned with the play that he's been doing. So there was a point in time when I thought we had overpaid him, and that was an investment, obviously, that Pelinka and the Lakers had made for the future, for LeBron and then for AD. And so if we had to put THT in there as part of the price, I'm more than happy to do it. We're still way ahead. And I think that, he's got some potential, but the kid's only 19 years old, but he's got great physical attributes. So it'll be interesting to see what happens as we move down the line.
Well, I'll tell you what, a couple more things I want to touch on before we head out, because this was going to be a real quick wrap up. I wanted to go ahead and make sure we have some content for Lakerholics.com, but I wanted to go ahead and get your thoughts on Danny Green, who I think has got to be a key factor going forward, him gearing up, because he's not been very much there most of the season. Now, you can't tell me that he has been. He's had just brief glimpses of the Danny Green that we know, but it seems to me that we've always talked about playoff Rondo. I've actually talked to you more about playoff Danny Green coming to life, turning it on when he needs to. And there is a great possibility, by the hints that he's given us in this 3 scrimmages, that could be the case.
Yeah, you definitely have seen him be more active, a little more aggressive on his shots. He still seems to be playing good defense. And you have to remember, too, that he's a guy who's won 2 championships. So he's got a resume, and he knows how to do it in the big games, in the big series. So I think that he's solidified himself. I mean, like you said, during the season, Danny at various times I was disappointed in. In fact, I've probably been accused of trading him at least a dozen times during the year.
Trader Tom.
But I like what I've seen from him in these 3 games. He seems to be in good shape. I think the whole starting lineup is looking good. And with the play that we saw from the reserves today, I think the Lakers are in position to do exactly what they want to do. They're exactly where the coaching staff and the front office hope they would be after 3 scrimmages, I think. I don't think anybody could be disappointed with the position that they're in. The roster looks like it's solid. It would be great to not have lost those 2 players that we got. We'll get Rondo back, but yeah, you can already see that Twitter's decided that we don't need Rondo. So we'll see what happens as we move forward. But we had some great playmaking today. I think that was the big thing. 6 assists from both Alex Caruso and Deion Waiters was an impressive outing.
Well, definitely we're not going to see that during the course of the season when you're playing at NBA high-level teams. And the Lakers don't have a cupcake schedule coming up. They have the 3rd-rated highest schedule for the last 8 games, so it's not going to be the easiest things in the world. But they have a 5.5-game lead in order to go ahead and maintain the first position in the West. I don't care really at this point about the first number 1 seed overall in the NBA. That's now a moot point almost at this point, unless you really feel that the
matter.
Unless you really feel the virtual fans going, it's really.
Well, speaking of the virtual fans, I was really impressed that they're using Microsoft Team.
Yeah,
they've got all of these 300 fans on 3 sides of the court, and they're using each fan has their own. They've blacked out their own background. And the background is as if they're sitting in a set of luxury chairs there, actually better chairs than you actually get if you go to the game. Even if you're down, on the court in the front row, and it's more like the chairs that you might find up in the suites. But it'll be interesting. Apparently, this Microsoft Teams thing is going to give a whole new look, and they're using it supposedly on Thursday's game. Will be interesting to see whether it's Clipper fans or Laker fans in the stands. But the whole thing is coming together real well. And I think you have to, if you're an NBA fan, you've got to be proud of the job that the NBA has done in putting this whole thing together. And let's just keep our fingers crossed that nobody goes out and does something dumb and brings back COVID into the bubble, and that everybody stays safe, and we can actually play this thing out and have games that are enjoyable and competitive, and end up with another championship for the Lakers. I'd like nothing better than that.
Well, I couldn't have said that better myself. In fact, I was going to ask for you as our last question to go ahead and reflect after the 3 games that we've seen of the scrimmaging, but you've already touched upon that, so I won't go ahead and recash that for you. But I couldn't agree with you more on that, especially with the disarray we're seeing right now in Major League Baseball and some of the other sports that are now more open and not in a bubble type scenario. We are seeing some promising signs that the NBA just might be able to pull this whole thing off. Well, I'll tell you what, my friend, it's been great talking to you, but before we head on out, I do want you to touch upon what's coming up at Lakerholics.com, including some videos that our good friend Rafael Barlow put up from NBA Draft Junkies. And please, if you get a chance, check out his awesome site, NBA Draft Junkies. But I want you to go ahead and tell everybody what you've got planned upcoming at Lakerholics.com.
Well, we're looking forward to Thursday's opening of the season, so to speak, the reopening of the season, I guess I should say. We're expecting to have a very busy site. There'll be a lot of great conversations. We're having all sorts of different things planned for Thursday in order to build up toward the game. I think the game is 6 o'clock Pacific time. And man, it's just going to be so great. The Clippers will be there. Lou Williams won't. It's questionable whether they'll have a couple of other players missing. So we'll have to see how that matchup goes. It's not going to be the game that I thought it was going to be, because I think the Clippers are probably going to be doing a lot of their same old load management type of thing and pushing, basically waiting for the playoffs to happen and figuring it they'll deal with the Lakers when they meet them down the road. And I think the Lakers, to a certain extent, are probably going to recognize that, and I think we'll see a lot of different combinations that we haven't seen. But it's going to be a continuation of the same thing that we've seen. Really, these are preseason games in a lot of sense, because they're sort of preseason games for the playoffs. But I think
not with teams like Portland, not with teams like New Orleans, not with teams like Memphis.
Some of those teams are going to feel that way. But I thought that when we had the roundtable the other day with Rafael, one of the points that he made was really sort of has stuck with me, which is that if you get a team like Portland or a team like New Orleans, they could very easily lose their edge. If they lose a couple of games and all of a sudden it doesn't look like they're going to, be in competition for that number 8 or 9 spot, and they're not going to make the play-in tournament, guys are going to start to go home. There's going to be a whole different era, a group of teams that are going to basically start bailing out based upon what the performances are. It's one thing when you're playing these scrimmages and you don't see LeBron for anything other than a half a game, or AD for a half a game. And if the Lakers or the Clippers or the Bucks or any of those good teams go out there and really put their best 5 out there for 3.5 quarters, it's going to put some teams in a situation where they may not have the desire to stay. This is a whole different thing. COVID-19 and playing in a bubble, and guys thinking about 2.5 months away from their families, away from their wives and girlfriends. There's going to be a lot of guys that are going to be wanting to join Lou Williams and go to Magic City.
Yeah. Well, all for that. I shouldn't say all for those lemon pepper chicken wings.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But he could have got curbside service if he'd wanted it.
Yes, that's true. But my friend, it looks like it's going to be a very good start to the NBA season for the NBA as a whole. We saw 3 great scrimmages, a lot of promising sign for the Lakers, and I look forward to the week ahead and the season ahead for the Lakers as they gear up for their 17th championship right here at the Lakers Fast Break Podcast.